Hi everyone, so this is the video to talk about the article How to Accept a Compliment by Carolyn Bucher, I suppose is how her name is pronounced. So there are different ways that there are different regards that people have when they're given a compliment. So the article begins by, her choice of introduction is that she unwraps a candy and it says, accept a compliment. Because a lot of people have trouble, so this is the advice, just, you know, take it, say thank you. You don't have to downplay it or anything like that. So she explains how the author Carolyn Bucher explains in the past, she would deflect a compliment and so forth, but she tries out the candy advice. She says she auditions, when someone says thank you, when someone says a compliment to her, that she just says thank you, and then she sees a change from her normal reaction. So what is the change? That the person who gives the compliment suddenly becomes defensive about it because she realizes that the person was expecting something different. So the article goes on and talks about how ultimately, in the end, in the United States at least, when people give a compliment, they're not simply feeling compelled to say, hey, you look nice, or hey, you did a great job on that project. A compliment serves as an invitation for dialogue. It's a way to invite the person who you're complimenting into talking to you. Either the person returns a compliment or says something about the purse or your hair or your shoes or the project you did, or that gets you going in talking about something, maybe where you travel to get the item that they're talking about or something, and then you get to say something back to them, and this is how we interact here. So the article says. The article makes a couple points. It's in my question 3. It says paragraph 14. It really should be paragraph 12. According to the sources of paragraph 12, why should people, especially women, not discount compliments? And the paragraph talks about how what does it say about women when a person says, you did a good job or you look very nice, whether it's a man or a woman, and you feel a need not to accept your power. I think is what the paragraph is saying, when a woman says, "Oh, I'm not that good," or "Yeah, I look okay, but you should see my sister," or something like that. That there's something disempowering in that. Whereas to show that you're, an assertive, capable, independent person, a woman particularly, should just be able to say thank you and own the compliment. So that's one way of looking at it. But ultimately, what the author realizes, or what her view is that you shouldn't do what the candy says. So again, we have questions, and I know the class often is, concerned about the questions. So let me just hit a couple of these. So what is the candy saying that you should do when you accept a compliment? And just say thank you would be the answer number 1. What happens when she follows the candy's advice, meaning when she just says thank you, she realizes that the person she's talking to is disappointed because she's not actually trying to get engagement. We talked about question 3, and this is, I think, an interesting idea to write about and to think about. What does it say when a woman can't simply say thank you to a compliment because it says something about her lack of confidence and lack of power? Ultimately, what's the author realize is the true purpose when someone gives a compliment and how it's supposed to be received. What the author realizes is that a compliment is an invitation to a discussion and to interaction with a stranger. So these are interesting, different ways of seeing a compliment. From my perspective, I will share, I think a person should just be able to say thank you. So I'm in more agreement with the candy, which is the opposite of what the article overall says. From my perspective, or what I think is that a person should just be able to, if you get a compliment, you should own it and accept it. Because I think actually that if you discount the compliment, then you're discounting the person's judgment for giving it to you. If someone says, hey, you have very nice taste in clothing, and you say, my clothes, it's just whatever, I just wear whatever, my wife picks out for me. Well, this person made made an expression of their view, and if you discount the compliment, then you're discounting their view. that's my view towards compliments, not the article. I'm just sharing a counter opinion. Nevertheless, what do you think about it? And then there's the whole issue for women, which the article really doesn't talk about, is when do people, I guess especially men in dealing with women, make a compliment for ulterior motive? So the compliment might be true. You might look very nice. You might have done a very good job on a project. You might have told a very funny joke. But is the guy looking to, is it a hit on you? Is it is it to try to ingratiate himself with you for some other reasons? So, what are the politics of being suspicious about a compliment? Again, the compliment could be true, but it could be being done with ulterior motive. And then, of course, why necessarily is the ulterior motive a bad thing? If someone is attracted, if a man is attracted to the woman, we'll just stick in a heterosexual way at the moment. If the man is attracted to the woman and he's being complimentary to get to know her, to date her, to have sex with her, but he's not doing anything wrong, is that a bad thing? I mean, he's not necessarily being underhanded, but so how does a woman regard accepting the compliment but being cautious at the same time of not getting too involved if she feels that it might be a threatening situation or something that she's not interested in being involved in? So here's some of my essay questions. So how do you respond to compliments? Do the circumstances matter? So is it one thing to accept a compliment in a classroom setting, say where you feel safe, and is it different potentially if you're on the corner or in a bar or something or a dance somewhere? And what are the politics involved in different settings? Do you agree with the article? What are there different ways to be generous when receiving a compliment? Okay, next one. Sometimes people use compliments to get other things. So I've been talking about this. The compliment may be sincere even while it is being used to manipulate. How does one navigate these sorts of compliments? Number 4. In a world in which people constantly post things online seeking attention, or as affirmation, are we vulnerable to a compliment addiction? Do you need to seek approval from a wide group of people? Is seeking approval, flattery, good or bad? So this is not in the article, of course, but it's an interesting thing that now with social media, people are posting all the time and they want to get their likes, and they have some people have expressed an addiction to, like, you post something and if you don't get enough likes on your Instagram or on Facebook, then you feel bad about yourself. So this is a whole new phenomenon that has been created because we put stuff out there, and this affects our self-esteem. So again, you can talk about that from a social media perspective, and also in an in-person perspective. We do our hair. Women put on makeup. People pick out their clothes. We navigate society, and if we don't get affirmation, how does that make us feel? Are we able to boldly go out into the world and just put ourselves out there and not worry about how people regard us? Or is that regard, does that matter? And then simultaneously, if you think it does matter, and I guess it matters to everybody in different ways to some extent, are you generous with your compliments in terms of helping other people to feel good about themselves the way that you would want to feel about yourself? I know, I'll just talk about this for a second, then I'm going to have to cut the video because we're getting near 10 minutes. So like in the comedy world that I'm in, it seems like people only compliment when people get off stage when they really mean it. Like, people are not constantly saying, oh, good job, because it should matter when you get praise from, on stage. Otherwise, none of it matters. And then simultaneously, when you're in the stand-up world, you're so thinking about yourself. You're thinking about, ooh, I'm going to get on stage, and you're nervous, and you come down, you wonder how you did. But then someone goes right up and does their bit, and you're thinking about yourself, and then you have to think about them, and you want everybody to think about you, but are you thinking appropriately about, giving the compliment when it's due? So I think about this, a lot in that world, and of course I think that applies conceptually, this is all concepts, to how we are in the world ourselves. So when we were all in class together, and someone answers questions well or does good in their participation, you want praise the teacher, from your classmates, but then are you also returning the praise and the support that you would hope that you would get from others? So I hope this has helped people out. I'm going to post this, and again, if you have questions or specific comments, put them in the replies. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.